In this video, we will look at operators in JavaScript. An operator is a symbol or a word that specifies an operation to be performed. So in Python, we have different types of operators like arithmetic operators, assignment operators, membership operators, etc. So let's look at some arithmetic operators. So the first one we'll look at is the addition symbol or the addition operator. So when I declare a variable, let's say a, and assign it to a value of 10, and then another variable called b and assign it to a value of 20, this is not the best way to declare variables, but because of this section of this video, let's just use simple variable names. So I can declare a variable c, and then I'll assign it to a plus b. So this c, the value that will be returned in the c variable will be equal to the sum of the a and then the b variable. So I can go ahead and then print, let's say c, and then when I go ahead, clear my terminal and run my file, we get 30 outputted in the terminal. So this is what addition. The next one we'll look at is the subtraction, which obviously does subtraction. So I'll just go ahead and then change this to the subtraction symbol, and then when I run my code, we get what -10. Now the next one we'll talk about is the multiplication symbol, which multiplies two numbers. So when I go ahead and change this to multiplication, which is this star symbol, when I run my code, we get our result. The next one we'll look at is the division symbol, which divides the left hand operand by the right hand operand. So which is this slash forward slash like this. That's the division symbol. When I run it, we get our result. The next one we'll look at is the modulo operator or the modulus operator, which returns the remainder of dividing the left hand operand by the right hand operands. So when we talk about operand, these values, the a and b are the operands, and then the operator is whatever we put between them. So this is the modulo operator, which is the percentage sign, and then this returns the remainder when it is being performed, or when this operation is being performed on the two operands. So I'll just go ahead, run my code, and then this is what we get as the remainder. When I change this to 100, obviously we should get 0 as the remainder. So that is it about the modulus operator. The next one we'll look at is the exponentiation operator, which raises the left hand operand to the power of the right hand operand. So when I say a exponent using this star, double star symbol, so that's the exponentiation symbol or operator. When I go ahead and run my code, you get the results here. That's 100 exponent 20. Let me just change this to 10 exponent 20, and then we get this result. When I do it 10 exponent 2, obviously we should get 100. The next one we will look at is the floor division operator, which divides the left hand operand by the right hand operand and returns the largest integers less than or equal to the result. So when I go ahead, and then the floor division operator is this double forward slash like this. I'll clear my terminal, and when I run my code, you see that we get what? 5. So that's the floor division. When I change this to, let's say, a random number and go ahead and run this, we get 67. And then maybe let me change this to, let's say, 3 and run my code, we get what? 44. So that's the floor division operator. So these are the basic arithmetic operators that we have in Python. The next set of operators that we'll talk about are the comparison operator, and these comparison operators return the Boolean data type. So the Boolean data type are true or false values. So when I go ahead and then define a value or declare a variable called, let's say, is active, and I assign it to true like this, capital T, let me write that proper. So this is what a Boolean data type. When I go ahead and say print type of is active, yeah, and run my code, we get what? Class bool. So which is what? The Boolean data type, or which is the Boolean object. So that is the Boolean data type which we mostly use in Python. So especially whenever we are using conditions. So one thing you should know is that these comparison operators return either true or false. So the Boolean data type has only two values, which is what? true or false. So the first uh, comparison operator we'll look at is the equal to operator. So the equal to operator is what? Double equal to. So I can say, so just using our A and B variables here, so I can say C equals A equals B. So when I go ahead and then try printing C, so since 135, let me just make this simple to, let's say, 10. Since 10 is not equal to 3, we should get what? False. So when I go ahead, clear my terminal and run my code, we get what? False. When I change this to, let's say, 10 and run my code, we get what? True. So that is the equal to operator. So it's different from the equal, sorry, this is the equal operator. So which is what? Double equal to, which is different from this equal to operator, which is also known as what? The assignment operator. So the assignment operator or the equal to operator is used to what? Assign variables to values. And then the double equal to is used to what? Compare two values or variables. The next one we'll look at, comparison operator we'll look at, is the not equal to, which is like this. So which is what? Exclamation mark and then equal to. So when I go ahead and then run my code, we get false because 10 and 10 is what? Equal to each other. So when I change this to, let's say, 5 and run my code, we should get what? True. Now the next one we'll look at is what? The greater than symbol, which returns true if the left hand operand is greater than the right hand operand. So when I change this to, let's say, greater than, and run my code, we get what? True. And then the next comparison operator we'll look at is what? Less than, which is just a vice versa to what? The greater than operator. The next one we'll look at is the greater than or equal to. So we use greater than or equal to like this. And when I go ahead and run my code, we get true. And then the next one is what? Less than or equal to. When I go ahead and run my code, we get what? False. So these are the common comparison operator you'll be coming across. The next set of operators we'll talk about is the logical operators. So we have in Python, we have the and or not operators. So I'll go ahead and then show you how they are. So let's say I'll just comment this out. When I try saying print using the and operator, it returns true if both operands are what? True. So when I say true and true and go ahead and run my code, we get what? True. But when I change one of the operand to, let's say, false, and go ahead and run my code, we get what? False. So likewise in Python works with what we call true and falsy values. So values like, or integers like 10 and 5 are what? True values. So when I say A and B, I should get what? 5, because it returns what? The last true value. So since the two of them are true, we are getting what? 5, because 5 is what? A true value. So I'll just go ahead and then change this to true and true, or true and false. The next one we'll look at is what? Let me just comment this one down and change this to true. And then when I run my code again, we get true and then false. The next logical operator we'll look at is the or operator, which return true if at least one of the operands is true. So I'll just say print and say true or true. Let me write this to be capital T and copy this down. And then I'll change this to true or false. And when I go ahead, let me just comment these ones out and run my code in my terminal, we get what? True. So that's it about the or operator. So that's it on the logical operators. And then we have assignment operators like the equal to operator, and then we have the plus equal to, the minus equal to, the times equal to operators. Now the next set of operators we'll look at is the membership operators like the in and then not in operators. So when I go ahead and then define a variable, let me just comment this out. a list of scores. So I'll just say scores equals maybe 20, 60, and then 80. So I can say score equals, so it's different from score is different from what? Score. So let me just say maybe team score. So a score for team. So I'll just say 60, or sorry, 60 in what? Scores. So I'll just go ahead and then print, not that, print team score. When I go to my terminal and clear it and run my code, we get true. But when I change this to, let's say, 100, and I run my code, we get what? False, because 100 is not part of what? This list of values. The next one we'll talk about is the not in operator. So I can come down here and say, let's say, Bob score, or better still, in order not to define a different variable, okay, let's go with this one. Let me just declare a different variable and say 20 not in scores, and then I'll just comment this down and change to Bob score. And when I run my code, we get what? False, false. So I'll just comment this one out and run my code. We get false. The reason why we are getting false is that what? 20 is part of what? The scores list. So when I change this to 120 and run my code, we get what? True, because 120 is not part of what? This list. So that's it about the membership operators. So there are identity operators, and then we have the bitwise operators as well. So the next thing I want us to talk about is what? Printing values to our terminal, and then getting values from the user through the terminal. So for some time now, we have been using the print function. So in Python, if we want to display an output to the console or to the terminal, we use the print function, like what we've been doing so far. But if you want to get input from the user through the keyboard, we use the input function. So I can define some variables. Let's say day equals 31, and let me say month equals, let's say, 10, and then year equals 2024. So I can use the print function to print out all these variables. So I can say print day, print month, and then finally print year. And when I go to my terminal and run my file, we get them printed in the terminal. So instead of writing different print functions to output this or display this in the terminal, I can go ahead, comment this out, and then just write print day, comma, month, comma, year. And when I run my code, we get the same result, but all of them on the same line. So this is how we can use the print function. Now the print function takes an argument called the separator. So I can go ahead and say specify a value for the separator, which will be what? A new line here when I go ahead and run my code. So this works as if we are printing everything on its own line. Or better still, I can put a separator here, which would be just be like a slash, a forward slash. When I run my code, we see that what? A forward slash is being put at the end of the distance of each variable or each value, and you can see that they are all printed on the same line, because the print function, what it does is whenever it prints something to the console, it prints a new line by default. But with this separator, we can change it. And then with the end operator, so with the end operator, we can change how the print function work, whether whatever it should print to the end of our value. So maybe I can put star 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 here and run this. You see that star 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 is being placed at the end. So by default, what the print function does is what? Whenever it's printing something, it prints what? A new line to the end of whatever value it is being printing to, or it is using to print to the terminal. So we can use this end operator and then this separate operator to change the behavior of the print function. or how things should be printed to our console. Now let's move on and look at how we can get input from the user through the console. So in order to get values or data from the user through the console, we use the input function. So I can go ahead and say username equals. So instead of print, I'll say what? Input. And then I'll say enter your name. So whenever we get the name, then I'll just print the name back, or I'll just say hello, then what? Name. Sorry, not name, user name. So when I go ahead and run this function, so when I run my Python file, you see that it says enter your name and nothing happens. So until I type something and then I press enter on my keyboard before the next line of code will be executed. So I'll just go ahead and type Bob. When I press enter, you see that we get what? Hello Bob outputted. So this is how we can get user input from the terminal. And mind you, anything that we get from the terminal through the keyboard to the Python file or the Python code is what? A string, or the data type or the object is what? A string. So when I go ahead and say type of, let me just put the print function first, type of username, and run the code, and then I put team here, you see that we get what? Class str, which is what? The string object. So anything we get from the terminal is a string, and even if it is what? A number. So when I go ahead and then put some numbers here, which is not a name, we get what? The type to be what? A string. Or better still, I can say age, and I'll say input, and I'll put the message here, enter your age. And when I go ahead and clear my file, my terminal, and run my code, so I'll just put Bob here and then press enter, and then it will ask me enter your age. I'll just put 20 here, and then when I press enter, you see that what? We get hello Bob. I'm not outputting the age though. And then when I say type of age here, I didn't do that, so I'll go ahead and then run the code again. I'll put Bob again and then 20, and you see that the type of the age is what? A string. So in Python we can what? Convert the string to what? An integer using the int function. So I'll just say int, and then I'll enclose this here. So when I go ahead and run my code and I put Bob here and I put 20 here and I press enter, you see that we are now getting the integer object over here. So this is what we call what? Type convention or type casting in Python. So we can do implicit convention or explicit convention. So what I have done here is what? Explicit convention. So I am casting, or I am converting a string to what? A number. And you can convert a number to a string, and you can convert a float to a number depending on what you want. So I can go ahead, and we know that what? When I say grade, let me just put grade here, and I'll say it to 10 point, let's say 9, not 10.9. When I do this, we know that what? This is what? A float. So when I comment this out here and come down and say print type of grade and go to the terminal, first of all, let me comment this thing out. I don't want to use it. So that is how we can get input from the keyboard using what? Or input from the user using the input function through the terminal. When I run this, you see that we get type of float. So when I go ahead and then say grade, and then I assign it to let's say, okay, let me say integer underscore grade, and I assign it to what? Int. I'll just cast it. So I'll pass the grade variable here, and then I change this to integer grade and run the code. You see that now it is what? An integer, and it is no longer a float. So this is what we call what? Type casting or type convention in Python. And Python does implicit type convention as well. And then, so for instance, when I go ahead and try this in the terminal, so I can say print a string of what? this, and then I can use the multiplication symbol and then put 20 here. So it's what Python will do is it will do what we call implicit type convention and then multiply this string 20 times. When I go ahead and run my Python file, you see that this string is being printed 20 times in the terminal. So you should take note of that as well. Now, the last thing I want us to talk about is the comments, or what a comment is. A comment is a piece of text that is inserted in between the code to explain the purpose of your code to the user or the programmer or to yourself when you visit the code. So now we use comments to do documentation. So as you can see, like I have commented certain codes out. So whenever you comment something out, the interpreter will ignore it. But these comments will serve as what? A documentation to other programmers or to yourself whenever you come back to your code. So this is how we write comments in Python. You start by I'm using the shortcut on my keyboard, but whenever I want to write comments in Python, you start with the number sign or the hash sign, and then you write your comment. So I can say this is a comment in Python. And whenever we are executing this file, this line will be what? Ignored. It will not be printed or it will not be used by the interpreter because it is what? A comment, and it will not be used. So this is normally used by programmers to serve as what? A documentation to their code. So you should take note of this whenever you are working in Python or you are writing your code. You should know that you can comment out your code and then later on come back to it. So that's all for this video. Please subscribe for more videos and contents like this. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.